All right. Hello, hello, hello. If anybody is out there watching us, which I'm not sure anybody is, but that's okay. It's a whole new thing and a whole new world. Hi. Welcome to the very first episode of Scribble, 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 in which we believe that books are for drawing, and we're going to draw up some books right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Chris. This is Jared.
We didn't rehearse that.
I know. I didn't. In fact, I forgot to ask to see whether you wanted to be like the host or not.
No, I don't think I could keep up hosting energy while drawing. So,
No, well, I mean, just to say the introductory stuff, but
oh,
yes. Hi, Mikey. Thanks for watching. I'm not able to watch it right now. Why does it keep telling me? It doesn't matter. I'll fix this. What are we doing?
we're drawing.
We're going to draw. We're going to make some books. We are going to. It's fine. That's a good start. So what we're doing on this show is that we're going to like talk about books and we're going to design some books, and Jared's going to do some cover art and maybe some interior illustration, and I'm going to do some typesetting stuff, which I've, got a little bit of experience in. And while we're doing that, we will talk and hang out, and we will maybe read from the books. Maybe sometimes we'll have guests on, but today, as we figure out what the heck this is, we're just gonna go for it. We have decided, or this idea came about when we were talking, either before or on another stream, I forget, about the works of Mary Shelley. I don't know if this was on the 19th century literature.
I think it
Take your
was
pick.
because I brought up The Last Man.
Yes, exactly. So Mary Shelley has written a number of books. One of them is fabulously famous. Another one is kind of well known, and then there's a few that are mostly forgotten. And I don't know, maybe they're worth revisiting. Let's hope so, because that's what we're going to do. But we're going to start by doing, I think all of her works is the idea here. And we're going to start with Frankenstein. But I will say, I'm going to put my foot down about this. There we go. I've got it working now. I'm going to put my foot down about this is that one of the things that I love about books that are designed is when they look nice together on a shelf. Like a Penguin Classics or something, or all sorts of other series where there's some like stylistic consistency, at least on the spine, with that. So I hope we can agree on that at least.
Yes.
Is there anything that you're hoping for in terms of how the books look, sort of overall?
Not necessarily. I mean, I kind of like to compare it to something that's not a book at all. I like the way something like the Criterion Collection does it, where everything is vastly different over the whole library that they've got, but there's still like the distinct design elements on the spine that keep it consistent.
Yeah, and I mean they also make sure that they incorporate like the label, like the C logo,
Yeah,
Criterion logo, into it. But yeah, also you can clearly tell that these are part of the same thing. And also sometimes when they have several works by the same director, they'll go out of their way to make sure that there's a coherency within that director's work.
yeah.
So those are all possible. What else do you like about a good book, physically speaking?
Well, obviously, I like it when they're pretty. I like it when they're heavy, which is
Oh,
even if they're small, if there's some weight to them. I don't. That's not like a visual thing. That's a tactile thing. But
you
I
like
like that about books.
a good hurling book.
Yeah, yeah. Because I don't keep weapons around. You know, if somebody comes in, I've got something to throw at them. Might as well be, Mary Shelley.
Exactly. All right. That's good. That's interesting because, of course, a lot of people like their books kind of light to take with them, just slip into a bag, head out. I mean, this is why ebooks, which weigh basically nothing, are so popular.
No, when I was regularly commuting, I would take gigantic hardcovers with me. I don't care.
It's fantastic. What's the largest book that you ever took with you in that situation?
Oh God. It might have been The Tale of Genji.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
I don't know which edition it was, but
the raw, real, uncut Tale of Genji.
There's no tiny edition of Genji.
No. There are abridged versions, which, like, what's the point? I mean, you're either in or you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been that. I think, yeah.
Mikey suggests we put some lead in the spine. I've never tried to read this while commuting, but I had it out for an event recently where I was telling someone about it. And one of the larger books that I own that's not sort of crazy oversized is this one. The Codex Seraphinianus.
Oh, I haven't read it, but I'm aware of it.
Well, it's not quite readable.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a poor page to open to. There we go. It's this like encyclopedic book in a made-up language with made-up script and really trippy illustrations. It's really fantastic. I have a big thing about fake language and so forth. But that's a nice, hefty book. Put up by Rizzoli, a big art publisher. So, I mean, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that because I don't know whether we're going to end up doing these print on demand or make a small run that looks extra nice that where we can control things, but potentially more expensive. But we will have a physical book at the end. Most of the books that I've designed before have been for print on demand situations for the publisher that I used to help run. I was trying to think of what size we should go for. And the print on demand services offer a fair number of sizes, but they're all sort of normal sizes. So here's a particularly normal size book. Let me put it up to my face. Hold it like the Amazon silhouetted person does. This is 8.5 by 5.5, a perfectly standard size for a mass market paperback. And I had fun. Let's see if I can do that. I had fun doing this sort of like, I wanted to do header images for this one. I didn't normally do that. But so I took these like wood cuts and then I ran them through Photoshop's Smart Fill. There's a thing where you can like say, fill up the rest of this image that I've selected based on what you already see in the image. And I had it do it so that it looked very chaotic. So it's this weird combination of woodcut and like postmodern noise, which I thought did well with the book. Hey, something just happened. Hi there. Thank you, Chef Krista.
Oh, hello. I know that person.
Nobody has read the Codex Seraphinianus. Well, I mean, it depends on how you define read. It's fine that you know that person. I'm sure that makes them even more welcome here.
No, get out.
Well, they're here to stay. You can't stop them. The other, so in addition to making sort of normal sort of para-academic anthology collections like this book, which I kind of like how that one came out physically. I was also working with some art history people on a series of books that they did, and called Tiny Collections, and they wanted the books to be as small as possible. And the smallest possible that we could do with our print on demand people were 6 inches by 6 inches, which led to this size.
I don't know why I turn my head so I can see around the divider.
But like this book is a collection of photos with little like prose poem essay type things. It's very nice. It's a really nice size if you want a smaller book. You don't see a lot of books like this, but it's a fun size to work with. But you like a big book.
Not necessarily big, just with weight.
Just with weight. Well, I don't know if we can control much about the weight, but hey, books.
Also really good. I can't believe I forgot this earlier, but really good or interesting typography on the cover. Not necessarily consistent across everything, but like going back to comparing it to Criterion, they've got everything looks different. There's no consistency in the type. There's just the brand that is consistent.
Should we take a look at some of the Frankenstein covers, or is that going to ruin you?
It won't. I actually looked up a bunch to see if I would be doing something that had been done before.
All right, excellent. Let me see here if I do this. There we go. That's a better size. So here are some Frankenstein covers. This is just a quick Google search. I'm not setting up a Pinterest or something. This second one here is pretty great. I mean, who doesn't like? Oh, that's a French edition.
Yeah. Wow.
Who doesn't like that mid-century style? Come on. Oh, maybe you don't. Maybe you have a
thing
against Futura.
I embrace all styles.
We've got a much more lurid version, but with an introduction by Mary M. Threppleton. What
This
a
looks like
name.
Nancy Drew.
It does. I mean, it's very much that kind of illustration.
Yeah.
And we've got this sort of nice calligraphic. I'm sure that was actually done by hand, that title. I mean, the Mary Shelley is, well, actually, that looks like it's drawn type, but I could be wrong about that. What else have we got here? This is, again, it's French. Mary W. Shelley. That's a way to put it.
I don't know if I've ever seen her referred to that way before.
Yeah, well, the French are wild.
Yeah.
What else? So we've got, what else? What do we have here? We've got pictures of Frankenstein. We've got pictures of the monster. We've got pictures of Victor in his lab. We've got, this has to be Mary Shelley. Was her name Anne?
No. Her name was Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin or something like that. It was.
Yeah, she didn't have some like.
She didn't have a first
name that. No, all right. Well, somebody got very confused.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well. I don't know what that's about.
I do really like this just under it, this sort of Narcissus illustration thing on the main screen. That's cool.
The Penguin Classics version that they've got going. Yeah, this is frankly the competition.
Yeah.
Oh, that is really good. I wonder who did that illustration. This is the previous Penguin Classics, which is much more the let's raid the British Museum for a painting approach that they traditionally took.
I do not like that series of that design.
What I like about these designs is that when Mikey and I go to a museum, oh boy, when
Chris,
Mike
you haven't read Frankenstein, have you?
Yeah, really. When Mike and I go to a museum and we see a random painting of a random person, like sometimes I just don't know what to do with those, except try to decide which Penguin Classic they would be on the cover of. Like, oh, that's clearly a Vallette or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we have this like pure science approach, which is boring as everything.
It's so boring, and it doesn't even match the text, which is way weirder than just like Mad Scientist.
Yeah, this is based on the movie, but it's not even getting that right. I mean, it's kind of a fun electric shock thing, but now, this
dear,
one, that's quite an image.
That's really, I'll be with you on your wedding night, kind of taking that moment and running with it.
That's a really interesting moment to make central to your reading of Frankenstein.
Yeah, especially since it's not even like it doesn't happen, on screen.
That's true. I bet it happened. I haven't seen all the early movies, I guess, but maybe it happened on something like that with connections.
I like this, but it's also kind of like sensitive twink Frankenstein, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. He's an 8-foot sad twink.
Unless that's definitely the monster. I was like, there's the stitches. I was like, is that Victor? Is that our sensitive Victor? And what else? There's ever more. Oh, look at that. This is like Tor Publishing sci-fi classic.
Yeah. That's not Frank Frazetta, is it?
No, it is. Let me see if I can see, because I can see the signature there. Oh yeah, no, they absolutely are. Well, that hasn't helped.
It's it's the Romantics. It's
1990s USA Frankenstein cover. It is. Oh, it is Boris Vallejo.
Oh, I'm not as familiar with him as I am with others. So
I mean that was going to be my joke about it, but sure enough. Well, there's lots of, and of course some comics versions.
Mm-hmm.
And we there. Oh, let me take that off. There was an exhibit by oh God, what's his name? The film director who did Hellboy and
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. He had an exhibit at the Art Gallery of Ontario a year or so ago, and in part of it, one wall was entirely covered in different covers of Frankenstein.
Oh, wow.
It was like a wallpaper, like it was, reprinted and so forth. But like, it was really interesting to sort of look at all of them and think about it, because there've been so many versions of it, so many adaptations. It was including things like I Frankenstein. Oh, this classic one.
Oh,
This
all
this
right.
was huge. I think they had a whole poster of this one. Yeah, this one is great. Anyway,
all right.
or like you can go abstract and do it.
I like the concept. I don't like the execution.
It's all concept there. There we go. Oh yes, and this is I actually poked at this edition, but this is an annotated edition for scientists, engineers, and creators of all kind. And it basically is like looking at it, saying, I mean, it's a novel, but like let's talk about this from a scientific history point of view, and let's annotate like how this relates to galvanism and so forth. It was kind of interesting. I didn't actually do too much with it, but I looked at it when we were doing when the Spouter Inn, the podcast I do about books, did our episode about Frankenstein last year. I guess I can't do time anymore. So
it was last year. Yeah,
those are a bunch of images. We might come back to that. What else? What I don't know whether you've got some like initial ideas. Oh, wait, hold on.
I do.
Look at this.
This is incredible.
This is amazing. Who is Nino Carbe or Carl? I can't even tell what that's supposed to be.
I don't know, but I really like this.
It is Carbe, apparently. He was born in Sicily in 1909. Carbe. Yeah. And he was an artist and he did animation, it looks like, and he worked at Disney for a while. Well, that explains a few things. That's really fun. So there's lots of precedent and lots of things. So yes, what were you saying? I asked you if you had come up with some ideas already. I think.
Yeah. I have.
Good. What so like, a cover illustration in particular is a kind of reading of the book, right? Mm-hmm. It's a way of thinking about like, this is what the book is. This is like a takeaway from the book, or maybe you can work several in, but like, this is something that's important about the book. And, a lot of these covers, what's important is the scary monster being scary, or maybe the scary monster doing terrible things to people. But sometimes it's the tortured monster. Like you can definitely see that those are some threads, or maybe even just the scientist or the amazingness of science. What are some of the main things about Frankenstein that have always struck out for you?
The grossness, in a weird sort of way. I mean, it's not a particularly explicit or graphic book, but it is visceral in surprising ways. It's hard to articulate, especially right now when I have not had enough coffee. But like the way flesh is like turned into a tool. What am I trying to say? It becomes malleable, or like horrible acts of violence happen, and there's no justice for them, really. It's just the body just coming apart or being put together. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So even though I rereading it for this, I was like, this isn't actually as violent as I remember it being, but I always think of it as an incredibly violent and disgusting book.
You're not wrong. I'm not.
Yeah,
that wasn't a of disagreeing. That is a because the sort of, for me, the thing that I always think about, and maybe this is just because of how the conversation that I had with Suzanne for the podcast unfolded, but the thing that I always remember was the section that I liked the best, surprise, surprise, which is him learning language,
Yeah.
him outside of the cabin of the very nice family and spying on them in a slightly creepy way, but basically learning about the world through all of this and trying to internalize this. And like, there are a few books that he's able to pick up and read or learn how to
Hmm.
read from. And, this sort of coming into one's own knowledge, or coming into knowledge about the world is a trope. Is that the right word? But it's a thing that literature sometimes does, of
Yeah.
having characters without traditional growing up experiences have to figure out the world kind of on their own.
Hmm.
And that's catnip for me. So that section is the part that I always think about, and that ties in a lot for a lot of the other themes of the book, like the parental abandonment and
Hmm.
not fitting into society, and how after he's figured out that after he's learned language and has sort of understands the culture of the people there, it's like he dares to try to get to know them, and it goes very, very poorly.
That is such a sad part.
Yes.
And it's coming, but it's still, yeah. Well,
Exactly.
that's such a weird thing too, is that he doesn't, I don't think the creature has the context to understand what Milton is. And I don't know if that ever really comes up in the book, but he seems to not quite get that Paradise Lost is non-canonical. In a sense, it's not really quite what people think. It is a work of fiction based on myth. And
Yeah.
so I kind of wish, like Dante or whatever.
Well, that's it. I will say, having taught Dante to undergrads, some of them don't quite understand that this is a work of fiction. This is something authored by a human being.
Yeah, it's not
Like,
intended to be read as.
but also that like the church doesn't particularly agree with this. Like, it's integrated some of the ideas because it kind of had to, but like this is not canonical.
Yeah,
This is
it's medieval Hellboy. It's not really. It's not doctrine.
no.
But hey, getting back to Frankenstein,
Yeah.
rereading it, I was kind of struck by that he doesn't. And maybe I'm reading into it here, but he doesn't seem to get that Milton is not intended as a true and accurate reflection of the world.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. Okay. So we should probably start drawing soon.
Yeah, that's what the people are clamoring for.
I know. So let's see. Let me add your thing to stream, and then I
Yay!
don't know if you've got. I know you said you had some ideas. I don't know if you want to if you have multiple thoughts about what you might do, or if you want to run through any such thing.
I just have the one idea, but I'm really happy with it.
Good.
I really wanted to do, because there's so much in the story that you could go with, like we were just talking about, all these moments or whatever. But because it's me and it's my interpretation,
Sure.
I think I want to go less pictorial, I think, and have sort of rapidly sketch it, just so I'm not trying to. What is my brush size even? What is happening here?
I don't know.
Nobody does. I'm not bothering to write it out because it's just pretend. Have the text all here, and then around it is white, and then this is a weird brush. I was not using this brush last time. Have the text sort of knocked out so that inside the white space is like viscera, essentially. So it's horror, creepy, gross, but not like violent.
So you're thinking of having sort of the text in the middle, and then sort of surrounding it, encroaching upon it is like viscera?
No, within it. So it's like it's been peeled back, and inside is.
Oh. Okay. So what's happening on the rest of the page? Is it just black?
I was thinking of leaving it white.
White.
Yes.
You want it to collect as many scuff marks as possible.
I really did. Because my thought process when I try to say them out loud end up sounding really pretentious sometimes.
That's fine.
Because Frankenstein is really kind of intensely literary, the nested narratives and stuff, the focus on how the story is told is very much a part of the story itself. So having text be very prominent on the cover, to me, matches sort of the mood of the book itself. It could be all black. I just think with white, it's a little grosser, sort of clinical, surgical. It will collect scuffs. But
here we go.
Yeah.
Is there a way? So one of the other sort of notable features about Frankenstein, of course, is that it's texts within texts within texts.
Yes.
And is there? Are you drawing? Are you thinking about a way of metaphoralizing that? Metaphorizing? That's the word.
In a sense, because the way it looks in my head, the white should appear as if it's a skin over the words. So it's behind the white is the gross.
Okay. That sure. I'm intrigued by this. Now,
and if it doesn't work,
yeah,
it will not be difficult to stop.
To start again.
Do something else.
So the only other thing with that I'm thinking is if we want to think about how this might tie in with other books.
Yeah.
In the canon, in her work. What were her other books again?
The Last Man, Valperga, and then I think 2 others?
I think so. That sounds right. Or maybe 3 others.
She didn't write that many, but yeah.
She's got Matilda.
Right.
Let's try this again. So her novels are Frankenstein, Valperga, The Last Man, The Fortunes of Perkin Warbeck.
Right.
Lador, or maybe Ladori. Faulkner, a novel. And Matilda. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's more than I thought.
Yeah. Oh, because you didn't think about Faulkner.
Oh, how silly of me.
Which, like her earlier novel, Lador, charts a young woman's education under a tyrannical father figure.
Isn't Matilda the same thing, too?
Matilda?
Her Matilda, anyway.
Deals with romantic themes of incest and suicide. The narrative deals with its father's incestuous love for his daughter.
I love Mary Shelley so much. She had some stuff going on.
All right. Well, let's dig in.
She kept the heart of her husband in her desk. She was
in a jar, I hope.
No, I think it was just wrapped in some paper.
Oh God. Okay. Well, that's great. That's just great. All right. So that's an interesting thought. Why don't we start going down that road that you were thinking, and we'll see how we feel. Yeah, Nadia was suggesting a few sketches of a few different approaches, but I think this is a good place to start. So if you want to dig into it, feel free. She seems pretty metal.
Oh, she was. She was so metal.
Now, this will test your ability to have light conversations while you draw. But then again, you do that every time you're recording a podcast anyways.
Yeah.
Because as I think many people know, if you've paid attention to Jared's podcast, By the Bywater, which is about Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, and their works, every episode comes with a doodle that Jared has made while they were recording it. Now, what font are you going? This is just what you're basing it off of? It's going to be hand-drawn letters, I assume?
Yeah, it's going to be hand drawn. I need something to as a guideline, and I have a specific one in mind that it won't. Why won't it scroll? Okay.
Okay. Nadia is now Googling the heart thing. Tell me if you find something good. I don't want to Google it. So I guess most people watching this know about Frankenstein already, or probably have read it. But just in case, one of the important things to know before going into it is that there are two versions of it. Well, there's more than that, but basically two versions. There's the original version from 1818, and then there is a later version that she had rewritten or re-edited in 1831 towards the end of her life. And if you choose to read one, you should probably read the first edition. It is, generally speaking, better. Although you can find a nice annotated edition that contains sort of both of them. And that's what I read as well when I was doing it and when I was reading it last. And that was super interesting. I mean, I've held various body parts as an elementary student as part of a traveling science thing. That's true. There was a lot of talk on Twitter recently about dissecting frogs. Did you have to dissect a frog in high school?
No.
I had to, but I was also the sort of student who was 100% okay with just not going to class. But I had a friend who felt like she had to go. Like her grades were really poor and it was important. So she so basically I ended up going to that class and doing it just sort of to hang out with her and get her through it, because she was, as you should be, deeply upset about the prospect of dissecting a frog. As was I, but so I just sort of entertained her. I had the frog doing little dances and saying ouch when I poked it and being very silly about it in a way that really helped her get through it, and I guess helped me get through it. Also, it was a completely disgusting frog. I think it was filled with, I mean, I'd like to think it was like whatever the frog, it's not pregnant, but it had a weird gunk inside it.
Wait, it had the spawn inside it, or
it seemed to have the spawn inside it. It seemed to have a weird clumpy blackness inside it, which, may have been cancer, but may have been spawn. I don't know.
Oh,
it wasn't
God.
in my guidebook for how to do this. It was completely gross. Mikey says, I suppose if one is going into a surgical career, it's good to get used to the idea, although slaughtering frogs en masse doesn't seem like the best way to do it. No, and you didn't learn anything. Good heavens. I mean, I got nothing out of this. My mother went to nursing school when I was about 8 or 9, and she, as part of her nursing training, had to dissect a cat, which she found very upsetting. And I, as a very curious child, would go through all of her nursing books. And sometimes I would not go through the cat one, though. It was all drawings. It was all fine in that sense. It wasn't like graphic pictures of cat dissections. Good heavens. But it was still really upsetting. Nadia once dissected a pig heart that had a tumor in it.
Ugh.
Oh boy. And Chris is very excited about the
Leave me
famous
alone,
novel,
you
Frank.
monster. I'm just playing with how the text fits. Leave me alone.
Sure. Nadia's found a nice quote. Mary kept the heart in a silken shroud and is said to have carried it with her nearly everywhere for years. In 1852, a year after she died, Percy's heart was found in her desk. It was wrapped in the pages of one of his last poems, Adonai. Or Adonais, I'm not sure. The heart was eventually buried in the family vault with their son, Percy Florence Shelley, when he died in 1889, which is to say 37 years later. Quote source Mental Floss. Fair enough. Frank would be the awful Amazon original series loosely based on Frankenstein. Yes.
Oh, God. He's like a millennial or something.
I never did watch that Dickinson show.
I
about
heard it was
Emily Dickinson.
good, but I don't know if I
don't care how good it is. I don't want to know about it. Oh boy. Let's see. Oh, Adonais, or however. Oh, I think it's just a weird spelling of Adonis. It's an elegy on the death of John Keats. So it's Shelley's elegy of John Keats wrapped around Shelley's heart. It goes, I weep for Adonis, he is dead. Oh, weep for Adonis through our tears. Thaw not the frost which binds so dear a head. And thou, sad hour, selected from all years to mourn our loss, rouse thy obscure compeers, and teach them thine own sorrow. Say, with me died Adonis, till the future dares forget the past. His fate and fame shall be an echo and light unto eternity.
sure.
That's the first verse. There are 55 total.
I think I read part of this once actually, and I was just like, I don't have time for this.
No, I'll just skip ahead to the last verse. The breath whose might I have invoked in song descends on me. My spirit's bark is driven far from the shore, far from the trembling throng whose sails were never to the tempest given. The massy earth and sphered skies are riven. I am borne darkly, fearfully afar, whilst bursting through the inmost veil of heaven, the soul of Adonis, like a star, beacons from the abode where the eternal are. So that's quite a lot of paper to fit around a heart.
Especially because it was shriveled and blackened from being in the fire.
Yes.
I've heard.
Oh.
Like somebody grabbed it from his funeral pyre and passed it along to her, if I remember correctly.
Are you going to include the subtitle?
I have not decided. It's not going to take up this much space on the page. I'm just getting all the letters on here.
That is always. Yep, fair enough. I'm just getting all the letters on here. That's how I write poetry. I get all the letters on the page and then I push them around until I'm satisfied.
Until they seem like they mean something.
Or not. I'm not picky about that. Mikey says Shelley has one good poem and this isn't it.
What's the good poem?
Yeah, what's the good poem? Well, we'll have to wait because there's probably some lag.
I switched back to the thing just so I could see what his response was.
Ozymandias, of course, he says.
Yes,
fair enough. Ozymandias is a good one.
There's a really interesting comic adaptation of Ozymandias that I have. Yeah, it's really cool. It's literally just pictures with the words. It's just somebody going off to see the vast and trunkless legs of sand, or whatever they are. I don't have it memorized.
Should I, is it better with our faces or without our faces, audience? Cat and Girl, Mikey says, used to sell a cheap fake gold statue with the inscription from the poem on it. It was the trophy to futility, and I once owned it. But now, look upon your knickknacks, ye mighty in despair. This is a lot less drawing than I expected we've had.
I am never good at estimating how long it'll take me to do something.
That's fine.
This part was not supposed to take this long.
That's okay. We're not, this isn't, we can toggle back and forth. What we can do, this is fine. Like I can also have this view so you can see what's going on and see us if that's more exciting, but I'm perfectly happy to not have our faces on here. I'm not necessarily complaining. This is all, this is all processy stuff.
Just freaking resize. Okay.
So I'm enjoying how how you've got the sort of the K leading into the T there. And then you've tucked the N under the curve of the T. Got to see Jared's concentration face, says Krista. This is sort of why I was planning on having our faces not be here during the drawing parts, is because it would just be
I'm just
Jared staring at the drawing and me staring at whatever is on the screen that I'm looking up. But that's fine. Ooh.
Okay.
All right. Does it lean too much to the left by the bottom? You see what I mean?
Oh, like rather than being a straight up rectangle,
or leaning the other way so that the F is sort of at the beginning. Like, now it's sort of doing this is not going to help. But you see what I mean? It's not sort of flowing the way text does from the F along the sides. It's sort of backing. It's sort of butting back. Which, if you made the F like bigger and it's sort of dipped down, the stem of it dipped down below the N off to the side of it, that might solve that if that's a problem. Ooh, or that. Ooh,
like that's more like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, possibly trying to keep the line weight as thin, or maybe not, but
yeah, I can't change the line weight on the text at this point.
No, but if you're going to hand draw it or something,
yeah,
you can totally do all sorts of things to it.
Yes.
Is that less legible?
Maybe a little smaller.
And Mikey says, when Chris and I took a drawing class right before the pandemic, I learned that my tongue just goes all over when I'm drawing, so it could be worse. Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. Lolling tongues and such. And Nadia says, if you're doing a text-based design, I want a bonus round after where Jared draws a frightening scene or something. So the plan is we are going to do internal illustrations as well.
Yeah, my thinking originally when I forgot how long it takes me to do stuff was this would not take that long, and then I could do an interior bit.
Yeah.
So
also like we're not necessarily going to finish this week. There may be more Frankenstein next week. It's fine.
I'm going to start drawing.
Here we go, everybody.
The moment has come.
This is where the soundboard would have been good. But yes, there should be some internal black and white drawings as well. We might pick a few scenes and have that going because, why not? If people are going to buy a copy of this book, which hopefully it'll be a thing that you can buy at some point, then why wouldn't you have drawings on the inside? The Victor and question mark sketch Jared posted to his Twitter a couple days ago. Oh yeah, you should put that on the screen if it's at some point.
I don't have it on my computer.
All right, I'll find it.
Talk with my phone.
I will find that and I'll throw it on the screen real brief. But yes, this was a very cute tweet from Jared not too long ago. Perhaps getting in the mood for this, which could also have worked for a cover, I suppose. But it definitely would have been potentially false advertising.
Yeah.
Oh no, where is it? What did you do to it? Thank goodness you don't tweet much.
Oh yeah, no, it'd be way harder to find if I did tweet a lot.
Victor thinks his creation is alive, but to all the adults around him, it's just a pile of meat.
No, who said that?
Mikey said that based on.
No.
Let me just tidy up my screen a bit. Okay, so we'll just boop. There we go. Victor and question mark. Look at this adorable cover. Oh God! Say people. I don't know what y'all are. That is adorbs. Everybody go follow Jared on Twitter. There's lots of good drawings all the time, as well as other sassy content
Yeah.
at Vandroid Helsing.
I
It's so
think
good.
a lot of the people watching already follow me.
Well, they didn't see this, so go attend to it as well. Kira says, I don't understand Twitter. Fair enough. I don't either. I really don't understand Twitch, however, and yet here I am. At least a pile of meat wouldn't have to periodically go through the washing machine. All right, let's see what you're up to. Oh, wait, you've done stuff while I was away.
Yes.
All right, let's get into let's get this back to full screen because that might matter for some people.
Let's look at the guts.
Mikey is relentlessly online, so little escapes his notice. So yes, these are going to be the guts. Now, so in terms of drawing and like drawing that's going to be like professional drawing, do you normally do like a sketching and then an inking and then a coloring type thing, or do you have another method?
I do normally. This is a little different because this is essentially just coloring in the letters, but with intestines and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't need to do as much underdrawing as I typically would. But yeah, I usually do rough sketches and so on.
Cool. Are you going to be doing the Photoshop trick? Well, no, you're going to be hand drawing the outlines of the letters, so you don't need to do the mask layer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So one of the other things that we were thinking of doing to fill space while drawing and such is the reading aloud from the text in question. So why don't we read the opening? Or I'll read it. You can just draw. Or
yeah, I'm not going to read anything right now
if you want, but you certainly don't have to read. So this is the opening of Frankenstein, which you may not know, but I mean, you probably all have read it, but you may not know this if you hadn't read it. But it starts with some letters because, as I think I said earlier, Frankenstein is texts within texts within texts. So letter 1 to Mrs. Saville, England, St. Petersburg, December 11th, 17 something something. You will rejoice to hear that no disaster has accompanied the commencement of an enterprise which you have regarded with such evil forebodings. I arrived here yesterday, and my first task is to assure my dear sister of my welfare and increasing confidence in the success of my undertaking. I am already far north of London, and as I walk in the streets of Petersburg, I feel a cold northern breeze play upon my cheeks, which braces my nerves and fills me with delight. Do you understand this feeling? This breeze, which has traveled from the regions towards which I am advancing, gives me a foretaste of those icy climes. Inspired by this wind of promise, my daydreams become more fervent and vivid. I try in vain to be persuaded that the pole is the seat of frost and desolation. It ever presents itself to my imagination as the region of beauty and delight. There, Margaret, the sun is forever visible, its broad disk just skirting the horizon and diffusing a perpetual splendor. There, for with your leave, sister, I will put some trust in preceding navigators. There, snow and frost are banished, and, sailing over a calm sea, we may be wafted to a land surpassing in wonders and beauty every region hitherto discovered. Surpassing in... let's try that again. You 19th century sentence, you tripped me up. We may be wafted to a land surpassing in beauty and wonder... surpassing in wonders and in beauty every region hitherto discovered on the habitable globe. Its productions and features may be without example, as the phenomena of the heavenly bodies undoubtedly are in those undiscovered solitudes. What may not be expected in a country of eternal light? I may there discover the wondrous power which attracts the needle, and may regulate 1,000 celestial observations that require only this voyage to render their seeming eccentricities consistent forever. I shall satiate my ardent curiosity with the sight of a part of the world never before visited, and may tread a land never before imprinted by the foot of man. These are my enticements, and they are sufficient to conquer all fear of danger or death, and to induce me to commence this laborious voyage with the joy a child feels when he embarks on a little boat with his holiday mates on an expedition of discovery up his native river. So it goes on, of course. But
Yes,
you know what? Rereading that, I mean, obviously it goes on for pages and pages and pages. But reading that, like, and especially the sort of reading slowly that reading something aloud forces you to do, I am noticing all sorts of things about it. Like, so he's going up to the North Pole, right? He's going to be, this is someone else entirely. This is Mr. Walton. This is not Victor. He's going to encounter Victor Frankenstein, the creator of the monster, eventually, and that will kick off the story, which will be, Victor's recounting of what's been going on. But he's up there to discover some things, and he's got this theory that the sun never sets at the North Pole, which is not true, but it's interesting. It's close. It's not quite true.
It's half true.
It's half true. It's true half the year, or sort of. But also this idea that there's a point on the globe where the sun shines all the time, and therefore it stops being so Arctic. That there's a hidden paradise up there of like the best weather ever because it's always sunny. And what could be wrong with being always sunny? This strikes me as a very English attitude, but there you go. It's like, sun is obviously this sun thing that I've heard so much about from these foreign books. Why, it's clearly an unparalleled blessing.
Yeah. Was that a common, I know the 19th century had some wild ideas about what was at the pole, but was this eternal sunshine thing was that one of them, or is this just Mary Shelley writing an explorer?
That's a good question. I don't have that book of annotations on me anymore because it was a library book, so I can't look that up. That's the sort of thing that they would have talked about. Mm-hmm. And I don't know off the top of my head. I can say that there is a long tradition of people believing that there was a kind of hole at the North Pole.
Yeah.
You see this in The Blazing World. You see this in what's the Journey to the Center of the Earth, I believe, it's through the North Pole that they do that, or is that when they
go through a volcano in Iceland? Yeah,
which is basically the same thing.
It's basically the North Pole.
So there's a lot of that. Let me think. There's another sort of random geography nonsense fact that I love, which is that there's a Herodotus has a book called The Histories. He is considered the father of history, ancient Greek text, but he's also called the father of lies because he doesn't do history the way that we might, which is to say he mostly just asks people and then reports what they said and doesn't try to confirm it, doesn't try to fact check. The second book of history that we have from ancient Greece, of like history in a way that we recognize it as a genre today, rather than reading the Bible for history, say, or, annals of kings or things like that. But the second book is Thucydides' book on the Peloponnesian War, and he does sort of try to verify things. He will go to places, he will double check things people have told him, and so has had a lot more cred as proper history. But sometimes this backfires because there's a bit in Herodotus where he's talking with some people from Africa, as I remember. It's been a while since I've read this, so I might be getting it slightly wrong. But he's talking with some people from Africa, and they talk about basically going around the Cape, like going around the southern part of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about snow-capped mountains. And basically this was one of the arguments that Herodotus was clearly lying, because how could that be? It only gets hotter the further south you go. If you get into the middle of Africa, it's going to be nothing but boiling desert. And yet, in fact, there are snow-capped mountains in Africa, at least at some parts of the year. He was clearly talking to people who were giving him information that other of his peers would have thought differently of, right? Mm-hmm. He was given true facts that everybody thought in his community thought were wrong, and therefore he was perhaps, at least in that way, to be trusted. That's a long way to go for that. But I do love weird theories about the extremes of the Earth. This is looking nice and goopy.
You need to add a little more goop, really.
Oh yeah, well I assume the colors are going to do that, but
Yeah, they will.
yeah, there's some nice textured goop in here. Are you thinking that it's all going to be this kind of almost branch-like, collection of
No,
stuff?
I'm thinking it's gonna. I don't know if scrolling is actually doing anything for anybody here, but get a little. It's gonna change as it goes further south, into other stuff.
Will there be something like a throbbing heart in the middle, or?
I hadn't thought about it.
Okay,
I could certainly put in a throbbing heart.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But that might be, I don't know. Just throwing ideas out. And Mikey gets excited saying Jared beat me to it. They go through Hekla, which is one of the Icelandic volcanoes.
Right.
As you may know, it's just going to be me saying random stuff. As you may know, Iceland Air, their fleet of planes, each plane is named after one of the 14, I think, volcanoes in Iceland.
Really?
Yeah, so you can fly on Hekla or Eyjafjallajökull. What is it?
Eyjafjallajökull.
Yeah. Yes. Which we did not fly on Eyjafjallajökull, but we flew on something. I forget which one it was. I don't know. Maybe Hekla, or maybe the one that we saw. Mikey says, "I love Iceland, but I also love my children's adaptation to Journey of the Center of the Earth when young."
Like was that one of those like illustrated classics, or is this the movie that we're talking about here?
It says he said children's adaptation, but I'm sure he'll let us know. But yeah, one of the ones that has a picture on each facing page. So
yeah,
Donald Land's classic or a Moby Dick or one of those.
a few of them. That was the first. That's the only way I've read it. Come to think of it, is that children's
Journey to the Center of the Earth?
Yeah.
Ah. Huh. We did an episode on it for my MSE3K podcast, I think, and I think I read it. I think I read the actual book then, but don't remember anything about that. I recorded me talking about it and put it out in the world. You can hear me talk about it for about 8 minutes somewhere. I stand by that, whatever I said. Mikey says, I think they got spat out at Etna or Stromboli. For whatever reason, that left an impression. Have you seen the old movie with Dimitridons and papier-mâché boulders?
Yeah. That's the one where the guide has a goose that the other guy, the bad guy, kills to eat. That traumatized me. Remember his really plaintive cries of Gertrude, Gertrude.
Oh my! Pat Boone's in it. I see if it's that one.
Yeah, does he play like the nephew or something?
I don't know. He's the lead.
I guess that would be the nephew.
Wait, is that right? He plays Alec McEwen. I don't know. Is this not the one that No, this is not the one I've seen. Which was the one that I saw called? Oh boy. All right, let me look this up. Maybe I'm confusing two similar things. The part where the goose upset me as a kid. That sounds reasonable.
Doesn't he the guy? Doesn't he kill the guy who killed the goose because he's so mad that the guy ate his pet? I feel like that happens.
That seems reasonable. Oh, maybe I did. Maybe I read a different thing. What's the other one that's like that then? It's Jules. That's Jules Verne, right?
Yeah. Oh, maybe I know some people watching will yell at me, but maybe I should actually save this.
Yes. Yes, please do. Please save.
I do this all the time.
Sure.
I just get like so into it that I forget to hit save. That was a close one. My heart's racing. Okay.
Wow, maybe I didn't. I thought I did it for something. What's that called?
When did you? I'm curious.
At
when
the
did you
Earth's
first
Core.
read
That's the name of the episode. Sorry?
When did you first read or encounter Frankenstein?
I first read I read Edgar Rice Burroughs' At the Earth's Core. That's what I was confused with.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Pellucidar or whatever that is.
Yeah. That was the movie that we did the podcast about. There we go. John Wick, but with a goose. I first read Frankenstein when I would have been about 20 or 21. I think I read it for a class. I might have read it on my own. It's the sort of book I would have picked up to read on my own, but I think I read it for a class, and I didn't like it. I don't remember why I didn't like it. I didn't like a lot of things. I still don't like a lot of things. It's fine. But I didn't like it. It was really, I found it really boring, as I remember. That's not the most insightful thing to say, I suppose.
Well, no.
But I bounced off it. I'm still not a big fan of 19th century literature in general. But I wasn't a big fan of its sort of ponderousness, let's say. And, what is this picture? This is I think a political cartoon. I'm just going to pop over to my screen for a second of the Irish Frankenstein. Oh, yeah. Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
That's really upsetting.
It is.
Mikey says, I read it and Dracula my first year English class at undergrad, and I much prefer Dracula. I still like Drac, but I think Frankenstein is the richer text nowadays. Yeah. I haven't read Dracula, actually. But
Dracula, I mean, I enjoyed Dracula, but I have not felt the urge to reread it. Whereas Frankenstein, turns out I really like it, and I've reread it a couple of times now. So, yeah.
One of the things about doing the Great Books podcast is that sometimes I read books that are not my kind of books, but we generally try to be pretty positive about the books that we do there. And so sometimes I have to ask people what they like about the books to help me in.
Yeah.
This happened with Little Women in particular, where I was reading and I'm just like, this is not the kind of book I would read. And then I asked people, why does this book mean so much to you, if it means so much to you? And they gave me answers that helped me read the book and enjoy it, because I could see ways into it. And even if it wasn't like for me, I could still be like, oh, this is a thing. Like, I get why someone would like this. And I feel like sort of forcing myself to say to think of nice things to say about Frankenstein it opened up some of the pleasures of it for me. But it also might be why my favorite scenes are not the scenes that most people like. I don't know. The recent Dracula miniseries adaptation was terrible.
I've heard that. I want to watch it to see how terrible it is.
There's a joy in that. What? It's boring, says Nadia.
The Dracula adaptation? Yeah.
No, you're drawing. She's saying your drawing is boring.
Well, I figured she didn't mean that. That would be really harsh coming from Nadia. But she also could have meant Dracula or Frankenstein or,
Yeah. That's true. Nadi is jumping in. No, not the drawing. We know.
Okay. I feel like I've reached saturation on these vesicles.
Okay. Are we getting blobbies next?
What are we getting next? I'm kind of thinking striations.
So we've got to vote for globules.
Who's voting for globules?
That was Mikey.
Yeah, so it's more like muscle tissue.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's have a patch of muscle tissue. Maybe.
You think Mikey?
I mean, you do it how you do it. But, sorry.
You think Mikey would have voted for that? But
he's changed his mind. Maybe the T could be flexing.
Yeah.
What's the goopiest organ? Liver? ? That's a good question.
I think the goopiest organ is the eyeball.
That's pretty goopy. What about the brain?
It's more solid than goopy.
Well, I mean, the eyeball is pretty solid.
Yeah, well, when you slice it open, it's not.
Well, okay, if you slice anything open.
Well, but like the liver, I would think isn't really that goopy because it's pretty solid. It's like there's nothing inside except blood, right? That's how livers work, isn't it?
I mean,
I am not an anatomist. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
There's nothing inside. I mean, it's got the toxins.
Yeah, but there's not it doesn't have sacks of toxin.
It's got the Isles of Langerhans. Pancreas sounds the goopiest. I'm just assuming liver. The liver you eat is what liver is like, so pretty dense. I mean, skin, if you just remove that as an organ, it's going to get gloppy. Oop. Wow. All right. Didn't expect that to be a thing that would work.
What?
All I know is that you shouldn't eat a bear's liver, we're told.
Right.
I mean, it is the bit that has the toxins.
Yeah, but the reason that you shouldn't eat a bear's liver, I think specifically polar bear liver, is that it's so full of, I think, vitamin A that it will kill you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not the toxins, it's the vitamins.
People are agreeing.
That's one of the few wilderness survival tips I know, and I can't imagine it ever being relevant to my specific lifestyle. So
the liver filters the toxins, it doesn't store them. Well, I mean, maybe. You die horribly from vitamin A poisoning. Yes. All right. I'm no longer tempted.
Glad we talked you down from that ledge.
I'm not going to give up several decades of vegetarianism to have polar bear liver after all.
That good marbling in there.
So back to Frankenstein.
Yes.
Who's your favorite character? Drawing has stopped.
Well, because that's a tough question. I can't. I'm weirdly fond of Walton.
Oh yes, our frame narrative character.
Yeah, he doesn't have a huge impact on what happens, but his sensitive, idealistic, science hero thing that he's got going on is a really interesting counterpoint to Frankenstein himself, where he recognizes that he can't push some things. And he's got his weird romantic attachment to Frankenstein, I think is interesting. This quasi almost love story that they have.
He recognizes another great man when he sees one.
Yeah.
As they're trying to go north and they're getting prevented from storm, I believe. I was just looking at the end, and then there's one one addendum to the letter that he's writing to his sister, which says, and this is after, the entire story has been told.
Mm-hmm.
The die is cast. I have consented to return if we are not destroyed. Thus are my hopes blasted by cowardice and indecision. I come back ignorant and disappointed. It requires more philosophy than I possess to bear this injustice with patience. Because the crew is revolting, right? Their lives are at stake. And he's like, but science. They're like,
but can we not?
Exactly. So that is fun. It would be fun to have like a kind of mini series where I don't remember actually whether he does make it back, right?
Yeah,
Walton.
I mean, I assume it ends before he gets anywhere.
That's right. Yes, he has an encounter with the monster, and then it ends. Spoiler.
Sorry, everybody.
But the idea that he what was I gonna say? That he that Walton then goes on and runs into other great figures of the 19th century and other 19th century literary people, and they just unload their entire life stories to him as well. Runs into Holmes or something, and runs into maybe runs into Dorothea as they're traveling across. Not that Dorothea left home.
No, she, what's the end of that? What unmarked tomb or something like that? That's not the right word.
And to think it all happened right here in Middlemarch.
Yeah. Okay, somebody's been futzing with my brush settings.
Who could it be?
Well, no, so here's the thing.
Okay.
Occasionally, Photoshop will just...
reset?
No, because it doesn't go back to, like, factory settings. It goes on to some weird, like, painter's default sort of settings with, like, flow and opacity and wetness all mixed up, and I don't know why it does it, but every single time it's a nightmare trying to get it. Just restore defaults, please. Can we do that?
Doesn't that stick with the individual brush though?
It's supposed to.
Okay. That is what I'm saying. Isn't it supposed to do that? Do you save, like, once you've changed all your settings, do you save it as a brush and call it, Jared number 5 or whatever?
No. See, it's still like... It's not even a custom brush. Why is it doing this?
I don't know. So what are you trying to do now? What's this stage?
Just some flat... I'm trying to do some flat coloring just to...
Right.
No. That's not what I want.
Did you let Kyle play around with your brushes?
I don't think so.
Well,
this part is, I'm sure, very thrilling for everybody to see.
I'm like, should we? Oh God, I forgot to double check to see whether we were doing the right thing or not. I think we are. I meant to do it. Where is the thing? I was going to say we could run some ads.
We'll be back after these messages.
Well, yeah. But let me check something first.
Irritating.
It sounds irritating. Ding dang it. I set this up as an art stream. You need to be known as an art stream.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait.
That wasn't a breakthrough precisely.
Uh-oh. I think we found the culprit.
I knew it. It's like it's trying to be a blender, which is not what I need.
No, that's not what you want.
It's not, and I don't know why it's doing it.
All right. we're gonna run some ads real quick, and so that'll be 60 seconds. You have 60 seconds to fix this issue.
Oh no!
Of people who are paid subscribers will continue to get to watch without the ad interruption. So, so there you go. But thank you for watching these ads and giving us a few more cents to run the show. Here goes. Okay,
I
thank
think I
you.
figured it out right.
Okay, well, got a few seconds. Where only the most special of people get to watch.
Yeah.
I think
Hello,
that's how
everybody.
this works.
It better
I'm just
be.
gonna.
Yeah. Okay, I figured it out. It just it reset to a different kind of brush entirely, like a different tool for some reason.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of what I assumed when you said it was a blender, but it was so that was not your paintbrush. It was no, but a blender would be a type of paintbrush, right?
Yeah.
But it just gave you not the brush you thought, or it just,
Yeah, and it's the same. This is what I'm using right this second, is the same brush that I used to draw. But when I went to change the size or something, I don't know, it just completely switched.
The Expanse Utopia. I only got one ad and I wasn't watching it. You got a Fruit Loops ad. Oh, that's good. I love hearing what the ads were.
Well, it worked. Now I want Fruit Loops.
Well, you can have Fruit Loops. All right, but we've got the problem fixed now. We think.
No, it's fixed. Oh, I should save.
Sure, I think it auto saves.
Sort of. Not very well.
Oh, Krista didn't have to watch ads. Some people don't. Government insurance over here. This is great.
Krista thinks she's so special.
I only got like one ad, so in the stream I've got going on here just to make sure everything's working okay.
For people who don't know, Krista's actually my sister, so.
So yes, I got a horror ad, which is hilarious because I don't do horror movies. And then, Krista, what's your secret? I am so special.
Way of putting it.
Are you the oldest or the youngest of your siblings, or in the middle? You have a few siblings, I believe, right?
I have 5 siblings, and I am the oldest boy.
Okay.
Krista is younger than me, by far.
By far?
Yes.
Is she young enough to be Twitch native?
I don't know what that means.
Like she gets this weird website.
I doubt it.
Okie doke.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I doubt it.
Well, you can let us know, Krista. I'm not that young, she says.
None of us are.
So young enough to have a cat meme for your picture, but not young enough to know how Twitch works. Okay. Okay, I know that age range pretty well.
I am not, in case anybody is wondering, I'm not married to these colors. I'm just separating the different
The 80s were weird. Yeah, those colors look really similar in a way that doesn't seem to be what I would think you'd be going for here, but that's fine. I get that you're just getting some colors, getting some distinguished areas to tweak later. Yeah. Get the colors down first and then figure out what they should be. Has anybody who's watching this live, because if you're watching this later, this obviously you can't respond to me just now, although feel free to get in touch. You know where to find me. But has anybody who's watching this live not read Frankenstein? Kirles hasn't read Frankenstein, and Krista hasn't read Frankenstein. You don't need to be sorry. There's only.
I mean, Krista specifically should be.
All right. There's nothing wrong with not having read a book. It means you still get to read it if you want to read it, and it's okay. Do you have any questions about the book based on things that you may know or don't know about it? Not that we're experts on it necessarily. You're a fantasy sci-fi gal, but it is like one of the foundational works of sci-fi. Well, it's fine. I read it long enough ago that I don't remember all of it. I read it a year ago and I don't remember all of it.
There's a lot.
There is a lot. I've seen Young Frankenstein. That counts, right? It absolutely does.
That's such a good. I need to watch that again. That's such a good movie.
Yeah, me too.
That was actually that was my first exposure to Frankenstein. Was seeing that.
Seeing Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, but it's such. Since it's riffing on the Universal movies, which are iconic enough that you just sort of get the jokes, even if you haven't seen them or read the book. But yeah, I saw that, and then I think I saw Frankenstein and then The Bride of Frankenstein after that, and then I finally read the book a few years ago.
I saw Young Frankenstein when I was young. I don't know whether it was before or after I read the book. You don't need to have read the book to watch that. You just need to be familiar vaguely with the cultural osmosis of it all. And then I rewatched it. We did a special episode with Sarah Chamberlain from a part of our Scaritage and the Canadian horror podcast that we have here on Megaphonic. And we were talking about movie adaptations. And so I watched Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein for the first time. So like last year, and they're great. I did not realize
so good.
That they were so good. Young Frankenstein is also very good. I also I grabbed a copy of Frankenweenie. That's what it's called, right? Frankenweenie,
yeah.
Which I have not yet watched. But she recommended it, and it seemed cool.
Was she talking about? Because I think there's two Frankenweenie. One of them is a short.
She'd seen both of them, but I think she was mostly talking about the full length one.
Okay, I have not seen that.
Well, I haven't either. But we can make that happen if you want to see it.
I am not a huge Tim Burton person, so
this was, he's hot and cold, and mostly cold, but Sarah recognizes that. I think that was part of how she framed it. I'm curious enough to watch it, but I haven't. But I don't watch a lot of movies, so there it goes. Even when I have every intention to.
There are so many fiddly bits here.
Yeah, there are. This is very. Do you prefer sort of doing art that has a lot of fiddly bits like this?
I prefer doing art that has areas of fiddly bits.
Right. This only has areas of fiddly bits. You've got this whole white space that you're going to keep white.
Yes. But I don't get quite this, not quite this detailed, I guess, as
Michael, my husband, has a cousin who's an artist out in Ottawa, and she does some really great work. Her name's Yvonne Wiegers, and she's very interested in fiddly bits. So I'm going to switch over to show you one of her pieces, which is...
Oh, wow.
That's like, I want to say it's 5x5 or 6x6. It's based on, it's called Wabi Sabi Agnes Martin. And like it's really detailed. If you zoom in a bit, or actually, I might even be able to. Well, I don't know if she doesn't have a high res thing, but like those are very small lines going in directions. Where's my copy of the? She allowed us to use that on a book that I designed. Let me see where it is. Hold on one second. There it is. Be right back. So you can get a sort of, boop, there I am. That's what it looks like close up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's not focusing very well.
I think it is focusing enough.
It's focusing enough. You're getting the idea that it's like,
yeah,
there's a lot of those fine lines there.
And is it all hand drawn?
Oh yeah. She has like a massive desk and like a giant magnifying glass and lots of light. And there's another one. This is 26 by 20 inches. Oh, and that's a detail of it.
Some of this looks familiar.
I've probably shown it to you before or something, but
no, I think I feel like I've seen something in person.
Oh, well, I'd be impressed. I mean, that's great if you have.
I don't know where.
Thank you, Nadia. I agree. Oh, there's a detail of it. Poof. Didn't need to stand up. Some of the stuff that she does looks a bit like Yayoi Kusama's work. But, you know, it's coming from a different place. Anyway, let's get back to you. Yes, it's on the theme of accumulation. Or that's one of the ways that she conceptualizes it. It's good stuff. Yvonne Uyghurs, I'll just pop it in chat. Why not? If you want to explore more. Oh, oops. No, let's bring that back. Hit the wrong button there. Oh, look at these fiddly little lines. Anyway, obviously those take her like forever. Yes, and there is a the Nadia connection because, well, anyway, I'll get into that another time. Unless Nadia wants to share it, I'm not going to. But yes, she knows Nadia's mother.
Really?
Yeah, which has led to a few weird like moments of like, wait.
Okay. That might be separated enough. Okay. Time to mess around with color.
To be fair, Mikey, I think a lot of interesting Canadians know each other, which is to say Canadians within the art world and within, you know, other worlds do end up because it's a small enough pool at that point. Okay, what is the next step now?
I am messing around with color now that there's the different masses are separated and all that.
Why don't you just, honey, why don't you just unclick contiguous and then just click one of those regions and have them all light up?
Because I don't know what that means. I'm a baby.
So, contiguous means touching. It's one of your little check boxes at the top of the screen.
Yeah. I never color stuff this complicated, really, because if it's this complicated, it's because I'm doing it in Illustrator, which is like, you know, comes colored.
Right. Illustrator. Oh, man.
That is more orange than I want.
Yeah, that doesn't look very viscera.
No.
Yeah, it feels like one of them, well, I don't know. I'm not going to say I have the best eye for color.
What would pink look like?
What would pink look like?
That's the wrong area.
What if it were a gradient?
I might pull out a gradient. I don't know.
Nadia says, you'd want to get that looked at if your viscera were that orange. Actually, the other thing you might do is Like go over it with a texture brush or something. I don't know, but you still need to figure
Possibly,
out the
yeah.
colors first. Too much. Kira says I'm always in awe of people who are good with color. Yes. But yeah, maybe too much vitamin A, eating too many carrots. They're all good options for what's going on here. Funny story, both my kiddos, when they were little ones, had an orange cast to their skin because they loved sweet potatoes so much. Wow. I've heard about that from carrots. I guess it's also true with sweet potatoes. But I hate sweet potatoes, so that would never happen to me.
Sweet potatoes are gross.
They are the worst. But that's fine. They can all be for curious kids.
Yeah.
Mikey says we're weird. But I wish they'd eat them now. I will not tolerate sweet potato hate on this stream, Krista. Too bad.
Get your own stream. Okay. I do like the red. I'm not wild about the purple, but I'm not sure.
What if it were blacker?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't like sweet potato fries either.
Nope.
They are definitely. I would pay the $1 extra to get the regular potato fries. Mikey says, down into my tummy with sweet potatoes. Fair enough, as long as they stay away from me. And I just got to spiralize her. All vegetables are good spiralized. Not sweet potatoes. That is the exception that proves the rule.
Extremely false.
Oh, see, I like that. There's some contrast. Yeah, it's still got a bit of purple to it, right?
Yeah.
Spaghetti squash is good, but is a pain in the ass to cook.
I disagree that it's good.
I never liked it as much as I was supposed to. My mother would always get very excited when she was going to be making spaghetti squash. Like, ooh, it'll be a rare treat. And like, but
will it though?
The carbs are gone, and this actually doesn't go with the tomato sauce as well as I wanted it to. I don't know. Other squashes I like. I mean, I like a pumpkin. Butternut is the king of squash. Yes, as Mikey says, that is true. Oop, I only left that on for half a second. Oh well. Welcome to Squash Corner.
Yeah.
It's good if you approach it as a squash and not a disappointing pasta substitute. That's probably true. That was the only way spaghetti squash was served to me. But you wouldn't spiralize a spaghetti squash. I don't think you'd get like rotini out of that. Oh, we're making shapes.
Sort of.
Okay.
We are tired of using the brush on everything.
Are we copying and pasting? What are we doing?
No, just highlighting a bunch of stuff for filling.
Oh, I see.
Doing a color hold on the
a color hold
lines.
Oh, a color hold.
Yeah. So now the lines on the muscle tissue have turned into sort of a brighter purple, so they're more visible.
Huh. Interesting. Spiralized spaghetti squash would be more like riced spaghetti squash. Exactly. Squash orzo.
Ugh.
Those are two words that I don't want to put together.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't heard that. I'm also though a known squash hater, so
I like it sometimes. Mm-hmm.
So all these little corners. Ugh. Ugh.
What are you doing now?
Oh, there's some spillage.
Oh, I see. Nadia will defend squash as Mikey fights for sweet potato.
Vegetable cage match.
I will say that the other vegetable type thing that I strongly dislike is mushroom.
Yes.
It's the worst. And as a vegetarian, I'm expected to like them.
Yeah, you got to have like your portobello burger or whatever.
Exactly. You go to a wedding and it's like, oh, plump. It's just a portobello mushroom.
We got you a slab of despair. Have fun.
Okay, this is making Mikey think of one of the most viscerally upsetting pictures I've seen.
Is it not safe to share? Because I'm curious.
Yeah. Oh, yes. This is upsetting to think about, but yes. The clot that was in someone's lung that kept the shape of the lung after it was dislodged.
I think I've seen that.
The clot.
The clot.
Yeah, that was a thing for sure. Oof.
Okay.
Orange.
It's one of those, oh man, that's so bad, but also, wow, cool. Why do gross out conversations and food convos / eating always go together? As I said, my mother was a nurse, and so sometimes she would invite her friends over for dinner or whatnot, and I was, let's say, 12, 13, 14, thereabouts. And of course, they would have a glass of wine or a bottle of wine or 2 bottles of wine, depending on the night. And eventually they'd get drunk enough that they would just start telling war stories. And they had worked, this was friends of my mother's that had met when they were all working at the Bellevue Psych Emergency Room in New York City. And so they had some good stories. But I got very accustomed to like eating while hearing these, like, again, war stories from ER nurses.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't bother me.
My older sister is a nurse.
And therefore too good to be on stream?
I don't think she knows about it, actually.
Oh.
So she will tell the most upsetting stories. She did. I think she worked in a psych ward when she was in medical school or nursing school. But also she has worked professionally in ICU, in the NICU, in the emergency room, in like rural villages of Vietnam where people get worms in their feet.
Yeah.
So, and she will happily tell you about all of it.
Mikey points out that I am not okay with the actual sight of blood or gore. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's basically true enough. It was always a thing when I would be like visiting my mother and she'd be flipping around the channels looking for it because she liked to have background TV on all the time. And she'd be flipping around and then, like, you know how like there's the live surgery channel or whatever it is. It's not live, I guess. But like you could just flip around the channel and stumble upon like intestinal surgery or something.
Yeah.
Well, every time, I don't know why that's there. I guess it's not a bad thing, but like every time my mother would hit one of those, she'd stop and just sort of like, want to figure out what's going on, get a sense of it, figuring if they're doing anything interesting. Or she didn't work in surgeries, generally speaking, but it was still, interesting. And I'd have to be like, okay, next channel. This is really unpleasant. I cannot look in that direction right now. That's more the case. If it's happening like in the moment, if there's an emergency happening, I can deal. But if we flip a channel or if a movie is going to have a scene where something very physical is happening, no, thank you. No, cannot look, cannot watch that. I love the highlights here. Now you've got a highlight layer, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
How does Mikey's talking about how he can't take trauma to the eyes, which I agree with, and
Ooh, yeah.
we could move on. I guess I didn't think about how aggressively, the eye bit in Chien Andalou. No. Fair enough.
Ugh.
But you know when that's going to happen. So how do you deal with the ants crawling out of the hand bit of Chien Andalou? It's the inside, isn't it? And I think it's ants. That part doesn't bother me as much. Maybe because it's a little fakier, but it's also not eye damage. But yeah, I have to just look away. But I know exactly where it is in that movie, and it's a fun movie otherwise. Nadia says this illo is really coming together, which is good.
Yeah. Nope. Come on.
Ooh.
Always name your layers, kids.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. A couple instances in college where everyone is freaking out. I'm just like, okay, we got this. Here we go. And afterwards, I'm just a mess. I feel the eye thing. It's why I can't wear contacts. Yep. I can't watch Mikey put on his contacts.
Ugh, I can't watch anybody put contacts in.
And my eyesight is like not so bad that contacts would really be. I don't know. I guess I could if I really needed to, but I like glasses. Mikey is enjoying this highlighting. Yeah, let's talk about let's stop talking about gross. Ooh, that really popped. Those little white highlights are really making it pop. Let's talk more about the drawing, everybody.
Yeah. Now that there's more happening than just some, I don't know, weird little details.
So which version of Fraktur is that font?
It is what is it? It's not. It's a much more updated Fraktur. It's Germania 1, Germania. It is.
Okay.
It is available on Adobe.
That's a different one than what's elsewhere. But if it's on Adobe, then that's fine. I got that. Yeah. People are loving the highlighting. Highlights are giving us a 3-dimensional quality, says Mikey, as if there's a body cavity in there. It totally took the form while we were talking about vegetables and gore. Highlighting is very cool.
Now, what I think I'm going to do, because I don't want it to look quite so much like somebody took a font and just put a mask over whatever and did other stuff like that. I might, this is some tech talk for people who care about that kind of thing. I think I'm going to group all of this and then put a mask over it and kind of rough up the edges a little bit so it's not quite as sharp. I don't know if that'll work, but we'll see. It's at least reversible if it doesn't work.
Yeah. People are intrigued.
This part's experimental. I have done similar things before, but I don't know how it's going to look here.
So I thought perhaps you would be hand drawing the sort of outside shape of the letters.
This is gonna make it seem a little more hand drawn. I didn't want to. It would take so long to hand draw it.
As Mikey says, as someone with zero training or experience in design, I do enjoy hearing about process. Exactly that is the feeling you're supposed to have from this show. There we go. Activate that font. It's been activated for me. So if I work on the interior, I can have that font at my disposal. What was the thing I was going to look for? Perhaps next week I will show off a little InDesign as well. Oh, I like that. See, that's what I was thinking you were going to do.
Yeah, that's a lot closer to what I was
So did you
thinking
do that?
I was leaving the actual. How am I going to do that to the very end?
Yeah. All right, but now you're doing it by hand rather than automating it somehow.
Yeah.
This is what I meant when I said hand doing it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
People are very happy to see process. It's always Kira says it's always cool to see to see people's process makes me feel better about my own work. And Nadia says also the image could be a root system, if not blood vessels, which would be fair, because the book is also about. Well, it's about like what is a family, and so the senses of how people are connected to each other and family trees and all that. Good. This is looking nice and frayed around the edges. I like this. I mean, I figured it would look like this eventually, but I'm liking how this is coming out. I just heard Mikey says I just heard Bjork in my mind's ear. I'm a fountain of blood, which you know that song now, right, Jared? I'm a fountain of blood. In the shape of a girl. Oh, it's Bachelorette. It has the best video, which you should watch after this. Mikey,
I'm not super familiar with Bjork.
Fair enough. This is a very good one. But Mikey, go post some links into the Slack for later. It is always okay if people don't know a thing, broadly speaking, as long as they're not pretending like they know it. It just means that they have another thing that they can check out, should they want to.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what I'm looking up. Oh, I know what I'm looking up. Yes. So I was trying to remember that cover of the Frankenstein for Scientists bit.
Yeah.
Because you'll remember, perhaps, that it's taking a slightly similar approach, but it is not using anything near that same font. It's on screen now if you don't remember what I mean.
Yeah, I before I laid this out, I did look at it on my phone just to make sure I wasn't copying it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely doing something very different.
Yeah. I'm in conversation with it.
Yes.
Some Kirby crackle happening.
Somewhat now?
Kirby crackle, but oh my god, what is? Oh, it's a cat. This gigantic animal just walked across the parking lot outside my window, and it's a big cat. It's a really big cat. Kirby crackle. It's
like Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Look, here's a big cat.
Is Basky there? Is Basky there? Ah!
She just came in right then, and now she's going to attack. Oh, wait.
I always want to wave to her as if she can see or care.
All right. Such a kitten. Oh, she wants some pets. Let me get back to your screen, though. Oh, boop. There we go.
Kirby Crackle is, if anybody cares about that, I care about it because I like Kirby Crackle. It's a thing that he would do a lot in space scenes where he would suggest cosmic bodies and things like that, or with explosions, that kind of anything that's sort of dynamic and in action. He would make the edges with circles of black ink, so that you end up with this sort of nibbled look.
Yeah.
You've definitely seen it if you've ever seen a Kirby panel, because you used it constantly.
Nadia says I've actually heard of Kirby Crackle.
It's one of his trademarks.
I don't think I've heard of it, but I haven't. I mean, I know of Jack Kirby, the comics artist, beloved, important comics artist, but I do not know. I don't think I've read much of his work.
I haven't. I've seen a lot of individual pages, but I haven't read anything by him. I need to.
I was trying to remember, but then I was like, no, I'm thinking of Will Eisner. I have read some of Will Eisner's non-superhero, non-the Saint stuff. But because I don't really do superhero comics, I've not read Kirby. I almost put him in a crossword recently, but it didn't work out.
I'm trying to think. I think I've read a. Ooh, that's looking okay. Like a short autobiographical comic that he did, but I haven't read any of his superhero stuff. I really want to read his New Gods series. I just haven't had an opportunity because it's hard to track down at a library, at least around here.
Is there no ebook version of it in like e-library book?
There might be, but I don't have an e-reader or anything like that.
Oh, well, you can still get it on your laptop. I was just reading a comic book. The one that I mentioned in the Take Your Pick about detective stuff.
Oh yeah,
what's it called? Black Sad. I was reading that through the library on an e-copy. I mean, I was reading on an iPad, which is like the ideal electronic comics reading device. But are you thinking of potentially changing this texture that you're fraying the letters with as you go down? Or are you going to, I know you were thinking of adding like sort of a laying on or some other effect to it, perhaps?
Maybe. I don't know. This part I'm really making up as I go along.
Good. Well, that's
I could lie and say that I am definitely have something in mind, but I don't.
I assumed you didn't, and I was just planting the idea in your head because I was wondering, because this texture might get a bit samey all the way through, but I was wondering if it sort of transitioned into more of a, like, I'm thinking like clawed paper kind of thing, like instead of these little bubbles, if it was more like scratchy lines going over it. I don't know if that would work or not, but
like, well,
yeah, sort of like that, but maybe tapering more or whatever. Yes,
yeah.
that first one was real good. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could. That would. Yeah, I might switch to that as it gets away from the blood.
Nadia says make it drippy at the bottom, which is also possible to have it spill out a bit, but
I was toying with that idea, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few ways you could do. Also the idea that of whether this is sort of like, is this immediately below the surface or is this sort of at a remove? Like you've got the sort of 3D-ness of the veins, but they don't look like they are. They don't currently look like they're sort of pressing against. Actually, that is a thing you could do if you wanted to be ambitious, is somehow make it so that the root structure, the viscera, are pushing against the letter shapes a bit, causing them to bulge. But that's a lot, especially having come this far already. We have about 5 more minutes until the end of stream.
Okay.
So you can decide whether you're going to, once we wrap up here, if you're going to sort of finish this stage of it. I think you shouldn't go much further. I don't know. How do we want to play this? We haven't decided yet. But
a lot of this is just happening on the fly.
Yeah, exactly. This is fine. I think I hope it's fine. I hope people seem to have been enjoying it. I've been enjoying it. But if you end up sort of, if you end up just sort of not touching it until next week, that's fine. If you end up sort of going a little bit further with this, and if you have some way of just showing us like the steps of whatever else you've done in the meantime, but you certainly don't need to like finish it.
Showing this, I think showing steps would be a little difficult. I would be fine with just finishing it next time.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. Like if you're when you save a Photoshop file, does it go through all of the Does it save the history? Like, can you undo after you open it again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the odds are I just won't close it because I leave stuff open all the time.
All right, that's also fair. Because that would be my thought, is that a quick way would be to go to the history file and then just sort of jump back a bit and then quickly sort of scroll forward through it. Would be one way to show, what you did since we last left.
Yeah.
Mikey says, I like how relaxed it's been. And Kira says, just like the chat. I know it's a little one-sided, but it's nice to hear other people's voices. So that's good. I've been enjoying the chat quite a lot. I've been enjoying how you all have been here for it. And we've had some good conversations about gross vegetables and even grosser surgeries.
Medical images. Yeah.
Let me see if there's another passage from the novel that I should read a bit of.
Read the closing paragraph.
I could read the closing paragraph, but we're going to
would
be
it
doing
be
this
better for next time when it's actually
exactly.
Ooh, what about when the monster opens its eyes the first time?
Oh, that sounds good. Do you remember where that is? Of course you remember. It's in chapter whatever.
I don't know off the top of my head.
That was... Oh, when he's telling his story. All right, here's the beginning. So at some point, if I remember this correctly, at some point... my 10 o'clock stream is queuing up, and they haven't been live for a couple weeks, and I'm fiending. Fair enough. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And yes, it looks very good so far. So, anyway, so the monster encounters Victor at one point and begins to tell his tale. This is another text within a text. So this is from the monster's point of view. It is with considerable difficulty that I remember the original era of my being. All the events of that period appear confused and indistinct. A strange multiplicity of sensations seized me, and I saw, felt, heard, and smelt at the same time. And it was indeed a long time before I learned to distinguish between the operations of my various senses. By degrees, I remember a stronger light pressed upon my nerves, so that I was obliged to shut my eyes. Darkness then came over me and troubled me, but hardly had I felt this when, by opening my eyes, as I now suppose, the light poured in upon me again. I walked, and I believe descended, but I presently found a great alteration in my sensations. Before, dark and opaque bodies had surrounded me, impervious to my touch or sight, but now I found that I could wander on at liberty, with no obstacles which I could not either surmount or avoid. The light became more and more oppressive to me, and the heat wearying me as I walked, I sought a place where I could receive shade. This was the forest near Ingolstadt, and here I lay by the side of a brook, resting from my fatigue, until I felt tormented by hunger and thirst. This roused me from my nearly dormant state, and I ate some berries which I found hanging on the trees or lying on the ground. I slaked my thirst at the brook, and then, lying down, was overcome by sleep. It was dark when I awoke. I felt cold also, and half frightened, as it were, instinctively, finding myself so desolate. Before I had quitted your apartment, on a sensation of cold, I had covered myself with some clothes, but these were insufficient to secure me from the dews of night. I was a poor, helpless, miserable wretch. I knew and could distinguish nothing, but feeling pain invade me on all sides, I sat down and wept. Then something nice happens to him. But I think we should wrap it up there. So we've got some nice images of how this is. Oh, I love the connecty bits. Yes, I approve. I like this very much.
Ta-da!
Yeah. That's real good. All right. Well, we will see where this goes next time when we return. Mikey, I also looked back and came back and saw connecty bits. Sinew come through. Yeah.
That'll be the back cover, is the sinew.
This cover would have to be embossed. I don't think we're made of money, but we'll see what we can do.
For the deluxe Kickstarter edition.
I mean, we could kickstart this, yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been lovely.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next week, same time, same channel. Thank you, everybody who followed us and whatnot. I think we're going to put this on YouTube as well, so it's not going to go away too soon, in case you want to tell people about it. And yeah, have a good day, everybody. I'll be back here tomorrow morning to do some crosswords at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. And then tomorrow night, we will be playing the new Jackbox games.
Oh, is it out?
Because it'll be out tomorrow. So that'll be the fun for tomorrow night. That'll be very exciting. So join us at this same time, 8 o'clock/5 o'clock tomorrow. And that will be lots of fun. And Mikey will be on screen and everybody else. We don't have any theme music yet, so we'll just have to say bye.
Just the sound of a pencil.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on. That was my Apple Pencil going down. It wasn't as effective fully as I hoped it would be. Thank you all. So
Thank
long.
you.